Hi, everyone, and welcome to our WLC policy portion of our compliance meeting for the year. Just a reminder, in order to participate in athletics, all of these forms need to be completed. In order to follow and finish the WLC portion of the compliance meeting this year, you will be going to our compliance slate form, and you will be clicking yes, you agree to the various policies that I present to you. At this time, you can go ahead, follow that link, and then fill out the top portion, your name, ID, email, birthday, and today's date. At the bottom, you will then see the different policies we will be going through. I just ask that you stay with us and don't get ahead of yourself so that you understand exactly what you're agreeing to when we go through. So to kick us off is first our athletic philosophy statement. Just understanding who we are and what we're all about, that we're committed to athletics, we're committed to the welfare, health, and safety of all of our student athletes. So again, as we go through some of the other video courses, we're going to be talking about all those safety protocols in place due to COVID this year. Everyone will receive equal and fair treatment. We support and promote the NCAA principles of sportsmanship and ethical conduct, and we're committed to providing a Christian environment for our participants and spectators. At this time, you can go ahead and click I agree to number 1. Then our code of conduct and character contract, understanding that participation in intercollegiate athletics is a privilege and not a right. You bear the responsibility of representing the mission and core values of WLC. So we want to make sure that you understand exactly what those conditions of responsibility are. So if you are ever found to be in violation of a college behavioral policy, the director of athletics and your coach will be notified. Furthermore, if there's any credible information that you've been convicted of any sort of a crime, as listed here on the screen, you'll be immediately suspended from participation. That includes practices, and not eligible for reinstatement until all of the student conduct process has been completed and the director of athletics and your coach have been notified. Furthermore, part of our character contract, it's expected that WLC student athletes refrain from the use of tobacco, that if you, as you know, WLC is a dry campus, so if you're under the age of 21, you should absolutely be refraining from the use of alcohol, and those of you over 21, act responsibly with the use of alcohol. Especially this year as we think about warriors together and taking care of each other. Just being mindful, smart about your extracurricular activities off of campus too, as we all partake in the effort of keeping each other safe and healthy. Those are two really big key areas where you can definitely control what you're doing and how that impacts others. Refrain from the use of recreational drugs, and specifically anything that's on the NCAA banned substance list. We'll go over that in a little bit, what specifically is on there. You can also access that online if you want even more detailed, a more detailed list. Refrain from gambling. That's specifically as it relates to gambling on any intercollegiate athletics or professional athletics events. So when the time rolls around for March Madness, God willing, we have March Madness this year, of course, stay away from anything that includes money. Strictly prohibited from participating in gambling in that sense. Refrain from any hazing activities. It's expected that you would go to the aid of anybody who is in need or in a compromised situation, that we would treat everybody associated with our athletic events with respect, and that while you're here, you will identify, test, and strengthen your moral convictions, act with integrity, and develop meaningful personal goals and build relationships based on mutual respect. Furthermore, as a student athlete, you're expected to make both academics and athletics a priority in your life. Know that those are the minimum expectations that we expect in the athletic department, and there may be more specific rules or regulations or really just character contract sort of things per team. At this time, you can click I agree to number 2. For the Fitness and Sports Performance Center policies and expectations, As you know, it's a pretty recent addition to our athletic facilities, one that we are very, very thankful and blessed to have. And we're charging you as a student athletes to do your part in making sure that it stays that way, that it stays clean, especially this year with COVID. In general, though, we should always take pride in our spaces, especially this great one that we've been blessed with. So failure to abide by any of these guidelines may result in the loss of your ability to use them. So a couple of things to keep in mind. We have put in red the things that are new this year and specific for COVID protocols. So you'll have to swipe in. You will have to have your temperature recorded and your self-check completed prior to participating or using the spaces. Shirt, proper athletic attire, and a face covering are mandatory. Face coverings are mandatory while you are in these spaces. Food, tobacco products, alcohol, obviously not permitted in these spaces. When we are in the Sports Performance Center, no more than 3 people at a rack. The only time that 3 people should be there is if you're spotting each other. Social distancing is expected at all times, except while spotting. And this year, something that we're going to implement is rather than spotting from overhead for a bench or behind, immediately behind for a squat, we will be spotting from the sides to try to create that social distancing as best as possible. Make sure that you clean all of the equipment that you use. Anything that you use or touch should be cleaned after your use, and absolutely everything should be put away in its spot afterwards. Nothing should leave the Sports Performance Center. Please make sure you're using it in the manner it's supposed to be used so that things don't break. And again, wipe everything down. 30-minute time limit on cardio machines, especially since there will be a limit on how many people are allowed in the fitness center at a time. Let's be respectful of letting other people come in. At this time, you can click I agree to number 3. For our conference, the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference, there are a couple things about your eligibility to address. For any transfers, know that we follow the NCAA rules regarding transfers, and your initial eligibility is going to be based on your eligibility from your previous institution. And then going forward, you will need to abide by the NAC eligibility standards that everybody must meet. If you are a transfer, please, you must see me or your head coach to complete an additional form called the Transfer Player Eligibility Statement in order to complete that transfer process and your eligibility within our conference. Academic standards, we follow all of the NCAA rules. For first-year students, you must be enrolled full-time. That goes for everybody. You must always be enrolled full-time unless you are in your last semester before graduation. So for the fall athletes right now, if you are graduating in December, this year you could be less than full-time and still be eligible. Same thing when it rolls around to May. If you're graduating in May and you only need 7 more credits to graduate, you can be less than full-time. Every other time you must be full-time to be eligible. So if you're contemplating having to drop a class or not, make sure you're talking with your advisor, talking with your coach to know that you would still be eligible if you ended up dropping that class. Minimum grade point averages, you can see listed below. After your first term of enrollment, you must have a 175 or higher. And then every year after that, you must maintain a 2.0 to be eligible. And also pass so many credits. So after your first semester, you must pass 9 credit hours. And then your second year, you must pass 24, third year 48, fourth year 72. At this time, you can click I agree to number 4. Our Warriors Academic and Leadership Initiative, also known as WLC, is our study table created for student athletes to help foster and create a healthy balance between sport and academics. So it's offered 3 times a week for 2 hours. Freshmen and transfers, you're required to attend at least 2 hours during the week. You can see those days listed, Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 7:30 to 9:30. You must check in with your team rep at WLC. That's so that you can have your hours tracked and check in about what you're going to be working on. Furthermore, some additional academic responsibilities. In order to monitor your academic progress throughout the semester, we do follow some evaluation cycles and have your progress monitored and shared with the coaches so that we can help you along that way. Attendance, it's absolutely expected that you're attending classes. Obviously, there might be some variance this year with the high flex models, but we still expect you to attend either virtually or in person. And remember, as student athletes, your first priority is to be in class and to be that student. Study tables, again, per sport, freshmen, you're required at least 2 hours. Additional coaches might have additional requirements per team. So to aid in the monitoring of your academic progress, we request that you release your academic records to us so that, again, we can help track your progress and make sure you're making good progress towards your degree and just throughout each semester. Those records are only released upon request to the individuals approved by the Director of Athletics. So that would primarily just be him and your coach to help with that. So we ask that you at this time agree to number 5 and 6, and then agree to release your academic records. Release an assumption of risk in the participation of intercollegiate athletics and club sports. Some legal jargon here for you. The undersigned, you acknowledge that you understand and accept that participation in intercollegiate athletics at WLC is purely voluntary. You understand that participating involves a risk of injury and that we do not provide primary medical insurance covering injuries that occur during athletic practices, games, and other athletic events. As you know, as you all completed your paperwork over the summer for the trainers, you must carry your own personal health insurance in order to participate. So you worked on completing all that paperwork. Thank you for doing that. That is something that's directed by the NCAA, just so you know. This time you can click I agree to number 7. Our social media policy and marketing and promotional release. So you guys should, at this time in your lives, have it ingrained in you to just think before posting. Be smart about what you're putting on social media. Specifically, as student athletes, we're going to hold you to a little bit higher level. So you're prohibited from posting anything about the personal use of alcohol, drugs, or tobacco products, anything that's sexual in nature, anything that has offensive language, and anything that has any sort of negative commentary regarding the performance of Warrior athletic teams or specific student athletes, or even our opponents. And just make sure that we are not posting anything that's in violation of our college athletic department or your own specific team, or especially anything that's unlawful. Again, just remember to think before posting. People can see it. It impacts not just what happens now, but also in the future. A lot of job recruiters are going to be looking at your social media. Utilize privacy settings and use good judgment. And I know, we know that there's a lot of different ways you can share things online too, with private stories or public stories and things of that nature. If you have to put something on a private story, maybe ask yourself, is this appropriate in the first place? And should this be shared in general? If I can't share it with everybody, should it be shared at all? For our promotional release policy, by signing this part, you're granting permission to be included on team rosters and in game and feature stories online and on different media and social media outlets like newspapers, websites, and TV. You also give consent to the athletic department to use your photo likeness for publicity and media purposes, and understand that you won't be compensated for it. At this time, you can click I agree to number 8, and then also electronically sign and date. We have just completed the first part of the WLC policies. The next portion is the drug education and testing program. So we just want to make sure that you understand that you do understand the risk associated with substance use and abuse. It can seriously interfere with your performance as a student and as an athlete and endanger the well-being of your other teammates. So we want to make sure that you are aware of the relevant college policies and the federal, state, and local laws. Refusal to sign this form or refusal to participate in a drug test prohibits you from participating in any intercollegiate sport for 1 year. The components of our drug testing program are education. Make sure that you have accurate information about the problems associated with substance abuse in sports and promote an overall health and safety environment. Testing, we'll go over the different sorts of tests that we have, and then professional referral if that's necessary. So the different types of tests we have at WLC are unannounced random tests. Again, it could just happen at any time. Like it says, postseason championships, when you make it to the NCAAs, people will randomly be selected to be drug tested. Preseason screening might take place. If there's reasonable suspicion, either from a coach, a teammate, somebody sees something that's a little sketchy, there may be a test. If you have ever tested positive, you will need to have a re-entry testing and then follow-up testing. At this time, you can electronically sign and date the drug education and testing portion. Last but not least, we have our dietary supplement disclosure and review. So there are a lot of health risks associated with taking dietary supplements, not to mention the fact that you could test positive for a banned substance if it's not appropriately marked on the product's label. Because of the risks of this, we want you only taking supplements that are approved by our training staff, and it's your responsibility to obtain that approval. If you test positive for a banned substance, it's going to be upheld as a positive test. So we'll go through this in a little bit, but please, with anything that you are taking, multivitamins, list it just to be safe. If you're taking iron supplements, anything like that, please list those in this next portion on the slate form so that we have record of it. And like I said, our athletic training staff can ensure that it's improved. If you do have a doctor's prescription for something, please list that in this portion as well. But again, make sure that you're checking with the training staff and that prescription is on file so that we don't run into any issues with the drug tests. So at this time, you can electronically sign and date the supplement disclosure portion. If you are taking any supplements, you'll click yes, and then a box will pop up for you to fill out what those supplements are. Then you can go ahead and electronically sign and then click submit for the form. If at any time you had questions during this, please do your best to complete the form, but if the question prohibits you from completing it, please feel free to talk to me or your coach.